Welcome back to another Beyond Awesome, where we talk to Beyond Awesome people. We talk about Beyond Awesome topics. I'm pumped to have Tyler on today. But before we get to you, Tyler, how's it going, Heather?
I'm doing great, Jason. What about you?
I am Beyond Awesome. So I love that. So, hey, Tyler, I'm really excited to have you on today, man. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, what's going on? Thank you so much for having me. It's I was just telling you before we started recording, it's kind of weird to be on this side of the interview doing, I was fortunate enough a couple weeks ago, just to let everybody know, I do a little segment called the Tech Insider, where I interview all the top technology partners in the industry. And, got to talk to Heather and Jason, and it was so much fun. So I'm excited that you asked me to be on here, and I'm pumped to talk to your guests.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah, thank you. We're excited to have you on as well. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. So on the sales side of things, on the work side of things, I work at PC Connection or Connection, as you all may know us now. I've been here for the past 3 years in the account manager role. So truly passionate about helping IT professionals, no matter what they're doing, whether it's, the hardware side of things, the software side of things, and the security side of things, where I rely on folks like Bitdefender. And this is not a biased thing or just because I'm on the Bitdefender show, but you guys have an incredible product, and customers, there's usually no problem, or there's never been a problem with introducing Bitdefender to my customers. So that's the shameless plug. But besides that, I've been married for 2 years. We have a 1-year-old son. On the side, I host a podcast called the 20% Podcast, where I interview professionals across all industries, just to learn a little bit more about what they do and how to be successful, just so that I could help people with what they may want to do in their career. Because I certainly didn't know I was going to end up in technology sales. Falling into sales has been the best fall that I've ever had, I guess. I studied exercise physiology in college.
Oh.
So going from exercise physiology to technology sales isn't really a streamlined process, right? But I'm finding over time that a lot of people are in that same position. So it's actually caused me to, I'm actually writing my first book right now too. So besides everything else going on, I'm trying to have the imposter syndrome a little bit of like, could I really do this? But it's been so much fun so far. That's just a little bit about me.
No, that's great, man. It's funny because I wanted to play in the NBA, and I just decided not to. It's not because I couldn't dunk or anything, but I just decided not to do that. So then I wanted to coach. Then I wanted to be a sports agent. Then I got into technology, and I was actually a consultant. And I think the way you put it was perfect, right? The fall into what was perfect and what your niche is. I smile every day. I'm happy every day. I love what I do every day. So the next question I usually ask is, tell us something we don't know about you, but it might be that you're writing a book. I mean, that's up to you. You tell us.
Yeah, sure. So I love that. So the main premise behind the book, it kind of goes along with the podcast and everything that I'm doing, pretty much like my life work so far. I'm going to be naming it All Roads Lead to Sales, how the skills that you learn in sales are the foundations for a successful life. I truly believe that sales skills are life skills. So if we get, and everybody has that negative stigma of sales of, the used car salesman, or especially when I was in college, right? I mean, nobody ever thinks they're going to end up in sales. But as you mentioned, Jason, and obviously I think, Heather in the marketing side of things, everybody's selling no matter what you're doing. So, so that's kind of the main premise of the book. I'm going to try to start talking about my story of falling into sales. And then I've actually been fortunate enough to interview, and I guess not fortunate, I've worked hard to reach out to the top sales professionals in the entire world. And I've been interviewing them so I could learn what are some of the top skills that make up a good salesperson, or why do you think that somebody should have a foundation in sales? And really what it comes down to is it's just all life skills. So it's really so much fun, like problem solving. You're talking about selling. You're talking, what are some other ones? Active listening, navigating no. I mean, these are the things everybody likes to talk, but nobody likes to actually listen. So my goal after kind of compiling, I'm just in like the data analysis side of things right now. So once I start going through, and not analysis, I'm just going through like what are the top traits and stuff like that. Then I'm going to also start interviewing folks outside of the sales profession so we could get a good grasp of, like, for example, so who's good at asking questions or actively listening? I think of a psychologist, for example, right? They have to listen to somebody and ask great questions. So that could bring the sales side of things, pretty much just tying everything back to how all roads lead to sales. So I don't know if you could tell, I'm excited about it. I've never done it before, but we're going to learn.
So, you know what? I've always been an active listener, but I will be completely honest. I always thought as a younger guy that I was right all the time, right? So my new philosophy is if you're right all the time, you learn nothing. So try to learn. And secondly, you don't have to fill every space and every conversation with your voice. And that's something I'm working on. I constantly call myself out on it. I'm telling Heather, make sure you call me on it, because I'm not learning anything if I'm just spouting, right? So active listening is super important. And for everybody listening, that's super important, because especially in sales, if you're not actively listening, you're just waiting for them to stop talking to pitch them a solution, you could have missed completely the mark that they were trying to give you. Like, here's the goal line, and you weren't even listening, right? I mean, how do you look at that, Tyler? Is that the same kind of way?
Yeah, I think about it this way. I've never made a sale or found somebody's pain points when I was the one who was talking.
That's such a good point, man.
So you need to leave that space. And sometimes, as you mentioned, because I struggle with that too, of like that awkward ask a question and pause, or maybe not try to fill it, because that's powerful too. So it's really interesting.
Really powerful.
A lot of people struggle with that. So I think I really, in an ideal world for me, I would say everybody should, because there's so many people, like, you're $60,000, $70,000, maybe $150,000 in college debt. And you could have just went into sales to learn what you wanted to do, right?
In the first place, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So if you want to be a doctor, why don't you go take a sales position and sell to doctors, so you understand what their pain points are, what's going on there, because you may realize
one of the classes in college, right?
That you don't want to do it. And what happens if you go through 8 years of med school and then you don't want to be a doctor?
So my daughter just got into college, and I'm having to pay for all. So let's change that subject.
Okay.
No, but you're
sorry about that,
right,
Jason.
Man. No, you are so right, Tyler. So right. Let me ask you something else. What's your favorite movie of all time?
Oh God, that is a tough question. I don't like to say. That is a really.
What's the one you're thinking of right now? Because there's always one, and then you start to think of another one that's cooler. Everybody does that.
This is just the most recent one my wife and I were watching. A Fault in Our Stars. I don't know if you've ever heard.
Oh,
that was
absolutely.
A great movie. I don't want to say. I can't say it was my favorite one of all time, but it's a really cool storyline. God, I'm trying to think of, like, I just think of those dumb ones. Like, I can't even say Step Brothers, because that's not my favorite movie. That's just like another dumb movie.
But it's up there though.
Oh, yeah.
We have so much room for activities. I love that movie. So mine is Christmas Vacation, because I'm a huge movie guy. I won't get into all why Christmas Vacation, but I had a real hard time coming with that answer too. It was about a decade ago. I went to a SKO for the company I was working at, and they told us everybody needs to write down their favorite movie. And I stood there for like an hour in my hotel room going, well, I like this, I like this, I like this. And you know what I ended up doing? What movie do I watch every year that makes me laugh every single time and I just adore? And it was Christmas Vacation. I love the family aspect. I love the crazy Christmas lights, because that's me. I go above and beyond. That's me, right? So I just really enjoyed it.
I just remembered while we were talking about this.
Okay, good.
Bohemian Rhapsody is my favorite movie.
Okay.
My wife and I, we watched it. She didn't know anything about Queen at first. She heard the songs, right? But like nothing about the story. And then she's like, oh, whatever, we'll watch this. But then she loved it. And we ended up, that was before we got married. We ended up buying it when we were on our honeymoon to watch, like how you could buy them on the cruise ship.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because we love, and every time it's on, it goes on, because just the music is just timeless.
What's that actor's name again? He's from iRobot, but I'm
Rami
Yes.
Malek.
How good is he in that role? It's unbelievable, man. Like how well he did. Gosh, he crushes it. Yeah. And I like iRobot too. That was a great show too. All right, Heather. So Heather asks always the more intelligent, more pointed questions. I just wanted to get to know you. So good luck, Tyler. I'm gonna step back for a second.
That's good.
So my first question for you is around the podcast that you do. What's the best piece of advice or most interesting piece of advice that you would share with somebody that you've learned through the people that you've talked to?
So probably the number one thing is harnessing the power of the morning, which is pretty interesting. Follow me along on this one. I'm typically a night owl. I don't know if it's just the nature of where I am in life of, when my wife and baby go to bed, then I focus and get some work done. And it sounds like that's Jason too.
1,000,000%.
However, and I want you to try this, Jason, because it's really interesting. There's so many times where you sit there and you just hit the snooze button over and over again. And then you have to wake up, especially in this remote world. You wake up at 8 o'clock and you jump on and you feel like.
Wait, did you say 8 o'clock? Jeez, you sleep in, man. Go ahead though.
Okay, so what? Okay, so whatever
time it is. Yeah.
Whatever time you were waking up previously, and I just started going to bed, or instead of doing that work at night, I was like, let me just try to flip it into the morning. So now I'm more pointed in. I'm gonna go first thing when I wake up, and I'm either gonna go for a run or go to the gym, and then my little circles on my Apple Watch are already completed, which makes me feel great. Right? You get that workout in, you don't have to worry about it later. And then you come home and start getting stuff done. You just feel like you're way ahead of everything else. So
the reason I'm smiling, Tyler, is because I think the universe is trying to say something to me, because you're literally, and I'm not exaggerating, I think between 7 and 10 people have told me this in the last week and a half. Get up early, exercise, get those rings going, make sure you're healthy. And then my wife's make sure you're healthy in a nice way, right? But I think somebody's trying to say something to me. So I'll try it, man. I promise you I'll try it. We'll do a follow-up and I'll let you know how it goes.
But don't beat yourself up over it, because if you don't wake up too, you got to listen to your body, because I do this too, where you fall, you go back to bed or whatever, and then you're like, oh, I'm such a failure. But when it comes down to,
I do that.
Yeah, but don't beat yourself up, because
right.
Just know that it's going to take time. Even if you go to bed 15 minutes earlier than you typically do and wake up 15 minutes, over time you could kind of make that shift. And when you're waking up earlier, you're going to bed earlier. Sometimes.
Yeah.
But
no, you're right, man. You're so right. You know what? I make my most intelligent, the best to my ability, right? But my best ability and intelligence is in the morning. After lunch, it starts to drift off, and at night it drifts off even more. So I know what you're saying. In the morning, I get the most done. Lately, it's been filled with calls, so I kind of try to do things in between calls, as we all do, right? But I think I should probably start trying to work on that. But getting up early is not a problem right now, because the global position that I'm privileged to be in, it's like 5, 6 in the morning every single day, like every day. But what you're saying is, if I go to bed at 11, try to go to bed at like 10 and then get up at like 4 and then fill that hour there versus the end. I'll try that, man. I'll see.
Let me know how it goes.
I'm going to try next week, but not this week. I'm too tired this week.
And I like what you're doing too, because this is accountability. So share this out. Make sure everybody hears this.
I for sure
Whoever hears this, you have to reach out to Jason or me and say, did he do this? So I'm excited.
Awesome. I love that. Moving on, Heather.
Jason's like, let's cut this right now.
Yeah,
This guy's
we're not doing this. So my next question goes to you in your sales role and the customers that you speak to. What do you see as the top pain point that they need to plan for the coming year?
Absolutely. So right now, I mean, last year was kind of I'm just going to start with a little bit of last year and kind of move into where I think things are going now from my agnostics perspective. So obviously last year when COVID hit, the surge was laptops. Everybody needs that. So there was a surplus of, or there was not any that you could get for a really long time. So once that stopped, I mean, people didn't spend too much throughout the course of the year. And now we're starting to see where people are actually moving more towards we're going to be in this remote workforce for, maybe forever. Some companies are still, I know that's a pretty hot debate anywhere you look online of, should we go back? Should we not? Do we need a vaccine? That's a whole nother topic, right? But it's interesting though, because it is changing the landscape from a technology perspective. I mean, we're seeing a lot of Citrix environments getting put up. And the other thing too that's really prevalent, I know I don't have to harp on it too much with you guys, is ransomware. I just had a customer get hit with that pretty recently. They wipe out their backups too. So what comes down, then you're back ground zero, starting again. So, I mean, ransomware is something that's been gigantic that we've been seeing a lot, where it's great to have folks like yourself come in and really help with making sure that that's not an issue. But besides that, I mean, the other thing too right now that's really, really top of mind is we're having a lot of constraints on laptops and laptops most specifically again. So, if Heather spills coffee on her laptop, IT may not be able to get a computer into her quickly. So now it's kind of our job to say, hey, what are you going to need for the next 3, 6, 9 months? Because it's on average, it's like 60 to 90 days to get stuff if it's not in stock. So really staying proactive in that right now has been tough, because people are like, why are you trying to just get my business that far down the line? But what it comes down to is, listen, my intention is to make sure that when somebody spills their laptop, and I wasn't picking on you, Heather, I'll pick on you, Jason.
Go ahead.
When Jason spills his coffee on his laptop, or his son or daughter drops it for whatever reason, then you're not going to have a surplus of them in stock. So we need to make sure that we're staying ahead of that. Or new hires are going to be coming in soon hopefully once COVID continues to better itself. Then where are we going to get the laptops? People aren't going to have computers.
It's a good point. While you were talking, I was active listening, just calling that out. As you were talking, one of the things that I thought of is I've been in a remote position most of my career. I would say probably between 15 and 18 years ago is the last time I went to an office, like full time. And what I've seen is you have to be and I'm not calling myself out or trying to promote myself. I'm just saying you have to be very motivated when you're at home, when there's not a boss around. You have to be very motivated and goal oriented to get stuff done. And what I found out is that's hard for people, right? A lot of people, their whole thing is going to the office. Oh, we're going to have a break at that time. We're going to have lunch at that time. We're going to leave and go home and then shut off the business. What I've seen, and this has been my life the whole time, and I think Heather's done it a lot too, is literally understanding when to shut down. Back to your point about, stopping workaholic, all that stuff. What are you going to need in the future? How are you going to manage that? So I think it encapsulates everything that we're talking about. But really, it comes down to people, and I've seen a huge spike in the increase in development work as well as productivity from these people because they're learning. And I think this fast forwarded us probably 5 to 8 years down the road for people working at home, because a lot of let's be real, Tyler, right? A lot of these companies, they wouldn't have let these people work from home unless there was like a pandemic or some type of reason that would force them to. Now they see the use case and they're like, oh, this actually works.
And I had my best year in sales ever last year because I was remote most of the time. I think from a motivation standpoint, and not to promote myself either, it's...
Oh, please do. No, this is for you. So go ahead.
No, I mean, what it comes down to is just the productivity. I mean, like, I'm not in a car for an hour and a half a day. I get my lunch break of an hour with my family or going for a walk. Those are things that help recharge me, not just going in my car or whatever. There's so many different things that it's been beneficial. Now, I have a question for you, Jason. What's your best piece of advice? I got to flip the script here a little bit.
Good.
What's your best piece of advice around working remotely? I mean, you have a ton of experience doing it. How does that work?
Yeah, so I kind of touched on it a little bit. The main advice, and I have been asked this a lot. So what I would say is you have to be insanely motivated. If you're somebody that needs to be told or micromanaged, you're going to have a really hard time working from home. The other thing that I fail at, but I give advice to, it's like do as I say, not as I do, right? Is work-life balance. A lot of people, when they start to work from home, they don't realize they're at home and they don't have that turn off brain situation for work. So for like me, I haven't left this desk. I ran inside to grab a sandwich and came back out and worked right here since I think it was 6 a.m. this morning. So we're going on 4.5 hours. That's not what I recommend to people. You need to stop. You need to get out of your work situation. You need to go spend time with your family. Like you said, go for a walk. You need to do those same breaks that you did when you went to the office. There's a reason that there's mandatory breaks in an office. Your brain functions better. You reboot. You get some fuel in your body. You kind of regenerate with people and interactions. You don't have that, but you have your family. But what I would say is the main piece of advice of anything I would tell anybody is manage your work life. I can tell you how not to do it because I can tell you exactly how I'm doing it.
Love it.
So my last question for you.
That's the first person that's flipped it, by the way, huh?
I know. I'm like, I don't know.
He couldn't help himself.
I can't. I'm sorry. That's just the inner podcast.
It's awesome, man.
The inner curiosity. I mean, you're doing it, right? This is the whole notion of what I'm doing with the podcast. Like,
yeah,
you're a professional at working remotely. Or you've done it for a long time, right?
Most of my career, yeah.
So I'm trying to learn from people that have the experience doing it, and that's the whole premise of what I do. So sorry about that.
No, that's great, man.
Good.
I love it.
So my last question for you is, let's do something with the remote balance piece. So for your customers, how many are you seeing, or what do you see the opportunity being with the hybrid environment? Because like you, I don't think we're ever going to go back to fully in an office, but I do see the benefit of bringing teams together. but that also leads to different technology constraints. So what are you seeing there, and what are your customers asking for around that?
Interesting. So this one actually just happened pretty frequently, and it's happening more and more. People are focusing more on those because like you said, some people are going to be going into the office and some people are going to be remote. So how do we get that balance? A lot of there's a lot of conference room configurations that we're seeing a lot recently as well, of let's bolster that environment because it may not be set up as efficiently as it can for like the Microsoft Teams that we're using right now to record this, or Zoom or Ring Central, whatever platform that you're using. It's not as efficient as it could be of that collaboration space. So now we're seeing a lot of customers bolstering their cameras in those, or getting like the Logitech Tap bundle where they could just tap onto that Teams meeting and then their remote work environment are brought into that same conference room with them. So that's what we're seeing a lot of recently. And honestly, I mean, there's a lot of great solutions out there. But I think that that's going to be something that we're going to see a lot more of from a hybrid perspective because of those people, some being in the office, some being home.
Yeah, that's great.
That was my last question. I'm done.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Normally we have to ask more, but I think Tyler, you're such a pro at this that you roll out a lot of the data, man. But anything else you want to share with the viewers or the listeners before we end this?
No, I think I just want to say thank you so much for your time. I appreciate. I hope I didn't talk too much.
Not at all.
But I do appreciate you bringing me on. This has been so great, and now it's nice to get some experience being in the interview seat or in the interviewer seat. So
the interviewee, right?
Interviewee.
I know that's a tongue twister.
Yeah.
No, Tyler, thank you, man. We think very highly of you. When we got on your podcast, we talked about it, how great it was, how well you do it. We've even taken some tidbits. So thank you, man. We respect what you're doing in the industry and your time today. And Heather, again, I can't do any of this without you. So I appreciate everything that you do. And everybody that took their time to listen, you're awesome. Tell yourself you're awesome. Wake up in the morning, you're awesome. Get up an hour earlier, I guess. We'll see, a little earlier. And tell yourself, I'm awesome. I'm going to attack this world. But let Heather and I know we'd love to have you on. But go out and do something positive. Be positive. Put a positive attitude out in the world. You will feel better. Trust me, if you at the end of the day your cheeks are not hurting, you need to fix what you're doing during that day. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Bye-bye.